This week's Devar Torah on Parshat Shoftim is brought to you by Bither Israel and Or Chadash. The opening verse of this parsha: Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Judges and we'll call them policemen in modern Hebrew. A shoter is a policeman, or we could call it an enforcer of the law. Put in all of your gates. The parsha continues and discusses the role of judges, and it goes on to discuss many of the other powers in Israel: the Kohanim, prophets, kings. But it begins with judges. Now, according to Hasidic thought, everything in the Torah can be interpreted on a personal level. It's obvious here when it's talking about appointing judges and policemen in all of your gates. It's the formula of how to set up a society based on law, order, morals, and ethics. But as in every verse and story in the Torah, we can look at it from a more personal viewpoint. So all the Hasidic rabbis explain the following. Shoftim v'shotrim, what is this talking about? Remember, we're in the month of Elul now. We're approaching Rosh Hashanah. And what are we supposed to be doing in the month of Elul? Introspection, and in a sense, judging ourselves. It says in our tradition that if we take the time in the month of Elul to judge ourselves, to do tshuva, to improve ourselves, to look at our goals, to look at where we failed, where we've succeeded, and we do what's called a cheshbon nefesh, a real accounting, then when we get to Rosh Hashanah, there's not much judging that can be done because we've already done it ourselves. Unfortunately, most people squander the month of Elul and have a tshuva attack, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and realize, oh my gosh, the whole month of Elul went by and I really didn't do what I could have, should have. Baruch Hashem, we still have Rosh Hashanah, the 10 days of tshuva, Yom Kippur. But ideally, most of the tshuva is supposed to happen before Rosh Hashanah. So that's what the Hasidic rabbis are talking about. These judges and policemen are our own inner judges. And the policemen are the forces within us that give us discipline. That we could decide to do all kinds of new things for the new year, but if we don't have the basic discipline to put them into action, so they don't get from thought to action. They're nice thoughts. So we need the shotrim, the enforcers of our decisions. And what does it mean in all of your gates? So Chassidus explains, according to Kabbalah, that in the face there are 7 openings: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. 7 openings. And in Kabbalah and Chassidut, these are called gates of the soul, because they are the window to the world with which we hear, we see, we smell, and we speak. This is how we react with the world, is through these gates. So again, when we interpret this in a personal way, is not just in a general matter we should be judging ourselves and doing cheshbon and nefesh, but very, very specifically through these gates, that we should be watching how we're looking at the world. Are we looking at it with what's called an ayin tov, or with an ayin ra, with a good eye, or with a negative eye? Are we listening to things that we shouldn't be listening to and believing things that we shouldn't necessarily be believing? And the idea of smell here is, as the idiom goes, if you've ever come into a situation and you're analyzing it, and you turn to a friend and you say, something smells here, let's get out of here. It's an idiom, but it's, again, talking about the sense of smell. We're actually told that when Mashiach comes, he will judge through the sense of smell. It's more than just a physical smell. It's the ability to perceive the underlying vibrations of a situation. And of course, our mouth is the gate of speech. So this idea is not only about this parsha. Now, there's the way we've just interpreted the judges and policemen that are put at all of the gates. We saw that on a very personal level. If we go back to all the parshas beginning right before Rosh Chodesh Elul, up to Rosh Hashanah, we see a beautiful flow of hints and instruction as how to approach the new year. Right before Rosh Chodesh Elul is Parshat Ekev. V'hoya Ekev tishma'un. And if you will listen. The word Ekev actually means heel, footsteps. That's why the coming of Mashiach, we hear the footsteps. We don't see the Mashiach yet. It's called Ikvei de Mashiach, the footsteps of the Mashiach. So right before Rosh Chodesh Elul, we have Parshat Ekev to tell us, if you attune your neshama, you can already perceive a new year is coming. You can hear it like footsteps. Last week we had Ra'eh. Ra'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha v'klala. Today I put before you a blessing and a curse, which is telling us we have choices to make. God is putting before us if we listen or if we don't listen. If we follow the Torah or we don't follow the Torah. We have a choice. And the rest of the book of Devarim spells out very, very clearly the ramifications of listening and not listening. So with the coming of Rosh Chodesh Elul, we start making choices. This week, we've already discussed that if we want to do tshuva, we have to have policemen and we have to have judges. And we have to do a true accounting. Next week is Parshat Ki Tetzei L'Milchama, when you go out to war. And teaching us very briefly that doing tshuva, doing a true introspection, is not an easy task. One has to, in a sense, be a spiritual warrior and go to war with those forces that want to prevent us from doing tshuva. And then the next parsha, we're getting closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. V'hoya ki tavo el haaretz. And when we come into the land. And if you remember from 2 parshas ago, we said when a parsha begins with V'hoya, it's the language of simcha. So now we're approximately 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah at Parsha Ki Tavo, telling us that even though doing tshuva sometimes can be heavy, we should never lose the sense of joy that comes with drawing close to God. Our accounting, which should lead us to be better people, should actually be a joyous process. And then the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah is always Parshat Nitzavim, And we will discuss that when we get to that parsha. But it says, you are all standing before God today. And that is hinting at Rosh Hashanah, how we all stand before our Creator. So may we take these parshas leading up to Rosh Hashanah and use them for every